And the thing is as well, the way this game has been built up, the way this game has been designed and developed, I think that there is going to be a lot of speedrunning tournaments in the future. There's going to be a lot of development over the future and refinement on these races. We're going to see a lot of return to how these races go. We're going to see maybe some mixes up to put items that they have to collect. We've seen in the development build they do have a diamond on the level that they can go and pick up and look at, but whether they can implement that into races, who knows? It could be all good fun. But for this top 32 match, you won't just have to listen to me for the next 30 minutes. I have, of course, been joined by Catherine of Sky here in the booth. And unfortunately, she missed the Unsm1le game, which was an insanely fast time, Catherine, of less than 9 seconds clearing Sector 2 Level 1. How do you think they're going to get on in Sector 2 Level 3?
I'm hoping it's going to be a really exciting match. And again, sorry for being late to joining you. I had some things going on over here. But I'm really, really excited to see what's happening today and see how they're going to get on in the next level. Because when I was commenting, what was that day? Was it Sunday, I think, that we were here last? It was quite the match, and I can't wait to see what our competitors are going to do and what maybe refinements they found, because they have been practicing for a couple of days still since that day, and hopefully we're going to see some really good tech, really good moves, really good inputs.
Yeah, and as we've seen, it all really comes down to how those inputs work. Every single frame matters in these. The timers get so small that we are talking differences of microseconds. So it's how do they throw that knife? How quickly do they teleport to it? How quickly do they react once they have teleported? You know, are they ready to throw their next knife or not? You know, and
Indeed.
That's what makes the difference. So this time we have 30 minutes for them to look at this level where they're going to find themselves a route and then they're going to begin optimizing that route. I don't know what route they're going to look at. I've never seen this level myself before. I'd only ever seen the Sector 1 levels. But you can see here Pidgeot testing, looking around the top of the map, while Unsm1le looks around the middle sort of section as they make their way forwards, just looking to find that first goal.
Yeah, and you can see Unsm1le there. That was quite an interesting thing. It looked like they were jumping just the fraction of a height to try to get either fast jump speed or maybe just to try to get the knife thrown just over the top of the block, but they didn't really find a good solution there and ended up dying. So it's interesting that they're like trying to optimize even in the very, very beginning just to see how they can get on and what kind of works for them. Oh no, that was very sad. Unsm1le just immediately plummeting to their death there. Just before the goal, it looked like there was a nice little lamp over there, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity to talk about something that came up on Unsm1le's screen. Above the character's head, you would have seen that a small timer came up. So each game loop of this has a 30-second timer to it. And if you are playing more casually, you can increase that timer. You can collect the little capsules that are dotted around the map. You can see them on both sides at the moment. And as you collect those capsules, you can use 4 of them to add 5 seconds onto your timer. So if you're playing it more casually, if you're just enjoying the storyline that comes with this game, then that option's there for you, but it doesn't improve your time. Like, when you take the 5 seconds off, it doesn't reduce the time total spent in that level. So if you say spend 35 seconds in the level, but you've saved 10 seconds using those capsules, it will still come up as 35 seconds at the end. So for these guys, it is all about finding that quickest route, finding the most optimal way to get through this level, and then making sure they get it frame perfect.
Indeed, and it's interesting to watch them because it looks like they're both going very, very slowly. And just really taking time, kind of pausing, kind of hesitating with each move. My guess is they're just thinking about what is most useful each time. Look at this, Pidgeot even changing his mind on a single run here, going, down, then mid, then backwards.
Yeah,
trying to practice those jumps.
Having the timer up on screen there, it really gives the runners an opportunity to, if they've made a mistake, they can test something else. They can look at how fast something else is. and that's how they can discover their new routes, as Unsm1le drops his time even further, now getting 10:19 on the board with still 27 minutes to go to optimize it. That is insanely fast, insanely early.
Indeed, it does seem like quite a short level though, so I'm sure we are going to see much tighter times with that. I don't know even how to even estimate that, but at least sub 9, possibly sub 8, maybe?
Yeah, it'd be great to see a sub 8 on this level. I think it's definitely possible looking at what I've seen so far, but it just comes down to what route you take, I think. And the thing is that where these guys, they haven't had the time with the game, it's not publicly available yet, it's available on Thursday, but these guys, they haven't had time to go and actually explore these maps and go and find out what is the best route. And that is what makes this format so interesting. You know, you've got 30 minutes to find yourself a good route and then optimize it, but that's a lot of time where you can go and experiment like Pidgeot was earlier. You've got time to try different routes, try and find a faster way around, and then at the end of each level you can see what the time is for yourself and your opponent. You know, Pidgeot will now see that Unsm1le has put in a time of 10:19, over half a second faster. So is he going to be thinking, oh, it's a different route, or is he going to be thinking, oh, it's a more optimized route? You know, what is it? What is the difference between these two at the moment?
Indeed, it does seem like there are a couple of viable routes from what I can tell from our players running this, and it's going to be kind of cool to figure out if they do run the same route, or like you said, if it's an optimized version, or if it could be different. I do wonder that when the developers are creating this game, do they make routes that are very tight in time to one another? As in, there are multiple routes that will get you a very low time, or is there always one best route?
Absolutely, and you know, this game, it has been built from the ground up by these individuals who over at 2 Awesome Studios. You know, they've made this game, they've made each level, and they've built it for speedrunning, they've built it for racing, so they must have put in plans for that sort of thing, Catherine. They must have considered, oh, this person might take the top route. Maybe they're not exactly the same time, but they should surely be similar in time. You could probably get some really good, close routes, and like we're seeing it here, with Pidgeot going over the top and Unsm1le coming underneath, and only half a second between them, it could be very interesting.
Indeed. Unsm1le really trying to get that diagonal hit with the dagger, but not working out because that's such a tight block. I don't even know if that's possible to get a diagonal from that angle and stuff because of the way the blocks are and how close they are, and the very small landing platform where they needed to be. But they're trying everything, that's for sure. They want to get whatever they can. Unsm1le finally deciding to just throw the dagger straight on, and obviously hitting the wall, going downward, which is slower than going at a diagonal, but choosing that instead of that maybe possible, but very fiddly jump there.
Yeah, and ultimately though, that's what it comes down to. Does he make this fiddly jump? Because although he's in the lead now, Pidgeot is going to be getting faster and faster as Pidgeot learns each individual option and opportunity to make themselves faster. So how fast will Unsm1le have to go? Will he have to make that finicky jump, or will he be able to just keep on making his way forward? Again, like you say, throwing it horizontally this time, as Pidgeot is being like a bird and flying high by the looks of things, looking for something different, looking for maybe another route or optimization, or maybe just testing something, I'm not sure. But you can see there again the timer coming up above his head that really controls how long you spend in each level. Unsm1le has brought it below 10 seconds. That was a sub 10 time there on the left hand screen that we just saw. That is fast, and it might be down to that awkward diagonal jump that we've been talking about, Catherine.
Do you remember if which route they both got their fastest time on? I know they've been experimenting so much, I couldn't keep track of it, whether it was the same route that they got the fast time on, or whether Pidgeot had gone up above, like you said, flying high, to get his quickest time.
As far as I've seen, Pidgeot has tried the top route every single time. He is maximizing his efficiency on that top route, so it could be the first time in a while that we've seen two runners take different routes and really push it to find out, you know, how close these routes are. We might actually get an answer to your question, Catherine.
It would be nice. That would be something, because so far I think we've seen every runner take the same routes to get to their fastest times. At least that I have seen in this tournament. So it's really going to be interesting to see if Pidgeot can make his route work and get below Unsmile's time. And meanwhile, Unsmile has still got room for improvement. So I don't know how much he's going to be teasing Pidgeot with a faster time.
Yeah,
This is quite the race.
You can see it when Unsmile's going past those lasers. There's points where he stops dead. There's points where he should be running or throwing or doing something, but he stops. His inputs just completely stop. So you might be able to see it on this run through here, where he goes down, and look, there's just a brief pause.
Mm-hmm.
He can definitely optimize this further. He can definitely get a faster time, as he just does a 9.2. I think it might come out as 9.19 in the game timer. Nope, 9.2. So even faster, over a second ahead of Pidgeot now, definitely proving that bottom route is the optimal choice.
I feel like Unsmile is doing that speedrunner thing of always wanting to get a PB and just leaving room every single time. And finally going to get that PB, maybe kind of closer to the end of our timer here of this match. But definitely leaving room for stuff. And Pidgeot, that's going to drive him crazy. Looking at the leaderboard, seeing Pidgeot getting better and better, and kind of wondering what he's doing.
Exactly that, and although, you know, like you say, they can see each other's times, they can see the fact that Unsm1le has this insanely fast time in comparison to Pidgeot, but they can't see each other's screens, they can't see what they're doing, and they can't see what routes they're taking. Pidgeot just needs to get that drop a little bit faster as we take a closer look at Unsm1le's route here. He now is actually looking for other routes. He looks like he's looking for a faster way through. Maybe he thinks, do you know what, I've done the best I can on this bottom route, and now I'm going to try and find something else. He's got over 20 minutes to try and work this out anyway, so it's not like he's pressed for time. Whereas he now seems to be taking the route that Pidgeot has been taking this entire time. So it'll be interesting to see how much, you know, if he can get it faster. Because if he can beat his own time using that route, then that means that Pidgeot can beat that time using that route, as we take another look at him testing his wall jumps and then diving off to the bottom of the cliff.
Indeed, I was just actually thinking that are our runners going to just continually try to improve the one route that they sort of chose early on, or are they going to try new routes? And obviously Unsm1le is taking that route of trying the new thing. We'll see if Pidgeot is going to do the same and maybe try to take that bottom route. Maybe that's going to be the goal. We'll see if they decide to choose that.
The time Pidgeot just put on the board? 7.5 seconds. We were talking about a sub 8, Catherine, but I wasn't expecting it to be half a second faster than that. That is insanely fast.
Wow.
And it just goes back to what we were discussing earlier. You know, we thought Unsm1le had the better route going down the bottom there, and Pidgeot's been grinding out this top route over and over and over again until finally every frame was perfect, every input worked out for them, and they've just dropped it 2 seconds almost ahead of Unsm1le here. When Unsm1le next clears a level and sees that timer, he's just put on the board there a 9.07, which is slightly faster, but he's going to see now that Pidgeot's sitting on 7.5 seconds. He's going to know something's up. He's going to know Pidgeot's found something that he hasn't found.
And there we go with the competition again, the uncertainty that how do you get there? Because like you said, they don't know each other's routes, and normally in the speedrunning community, a lot is shared. People do know each other's routes. They learn specific ways to do a thing. And this is kind of a tournament that rewards creativity and exploration and kind of optimizing different routes, because they don't have the research to make the best time. They don't have a set route that they know and they can run. They have to just figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why for me, Catherine, the most exciting time for this game is going to be next week. You know, it comes out on Thursday. We're going to see what happens, you know, as the majority of people get their hands on it. We're going to see what happens as these established speedrunners as well as these unestablished speedrunners start messing around with this game. What routes, what optimizations can be found.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I think, probably the most interesting for people viewing right now, and people interested in the game. creating those routes, sharing the information, like which route is best through which level, gives everybody a chance to be that groundbreaker, the person that finds the best way to get through a specific level, and then improve upon those times, kind of as a community. It's really kind of a lovely thing about games like this, that it can be shared with a larger audience, it can be shared with other people who have the passion for this kind of speedrunning.
Absolutely, and that's the thing with speedrunning as a community in general. You know, we're all trying to bring these times lower, we're trying to be the best time, but also we want to be there for each other, we want to make this community work. So when we do find something that really changes things, we share it, we put it on YouTube, we put it on Twitch, we make sure that other people know, so that although we are competing together, we're all trying to bring that time down as a community. And you see it in a lot of bigger games for speedrunning. Like, I talked the other day about Wind Waker with the barrier skip, which it changed the speedrunning community for that game entirely, to the point where it's been subcategorized now, whether you use it or not. And it was immediately shared. As soon as someone found it, they immediately shared it with the speedrunning community. And I just want to see what this game does with over 100 levels that have all been made, you know, specifically to run through as fast as you can. What have people got to find in this? What can they do? What can they add to this community through this game?
Indeed, that's the I think that's the point of all of this, is that, you know, when you're part of creating a speed run or looking for routes or all of that stuff and sharing, that's kind of what the point of life is, I guess. It's sharing that with the community, and it really brings people together. And a game like this has such a huge amount of levels. It's going to be great to see the community grow, develop, and people, you know, eventually develop friendships, hopefully, over this, and share things and all those wonderful social things that, you know, some people take for granted, some people never have, until they find the right game, and then they find the community that's right for them. And it's, changes a person's life sometimes. Sometimes ends in obsession over a game, and people play stuff for hours and hours and hours a day. But that can also be a great thing, you know, finding a good hobby that you enjoy and just makes you happy.
I've just seen as well, Pidgeot there. I've seen where he's finding that extra time. It's that final knife throw he drops at the end and throws the knife diagonally down to land quite perfectly. But more to your point, you know, those friendly rivalries, they are going to be what this game builds, you know, with an active leaderboard that you can see. In the build that we've been given access to, it already has leaderboards. We've already got competitions going on in the Discord where people are questioning each other's times and asking, you know, how on earth did you do that? I remember the first day that I got my hand on it, I was so proud of myself. I got top 5 on one of the courses, and then one of the guys in the Discord had beat my time by over 6 seconds, and it was just an insane difference. And he was like, yeah, no, here's my Twitch link to it, here's the route I took, this is how I did it. It was so insanely fast. But this is what I look forward to with this game, as Unsm1le has dropped his time down, but it's just not enough. He must be so frustrated every time he sees that leaderboard.
Oh, very close, getting very close. Just 0.3 of a second separating them. That is a very short amount of time. 0.3 of a second. Yeah. You think about that, and it's like, you know, Olympic runners or, you know, sprinters. Those kinds of times are these, you know, where it's measured by a hair of a second.
Yeah, and that's why it's so great to give these runners so much time with these levels. You know, using the Olympic example, they do the same thing over and over again. They run that 100 meters time and time again, but they perfect it to the best of their abilities. And you give these guys half an hour to mess around with one of these levels, and you just see how fast they get through them. It is genuinely really impressive to watch this level of dedication. Unsm1le there, just loading up the leaderboard to have another look, still seeing Pidgeot just ahead of him.
I bet that's got to be a little bit frustrating, since Unsm1le was ahead of Pidgeot for quite some time. But Unsm1le at last finding that quicker route, but wondering maybe what that last optimization might be. Obviously unable to see what Pidgeot is doing, but trying to replicate it nonetheless. And that's one of the things that I kind of was just thinking about as you were talking about the Olympics. And, you know, the repetition of doing these levels like this, we're noticing that it's very hard to replicate even the good times that they've had. Every input has to be perfect. Every, diagonal throw, every moment of maybe waiting for an obstacle. Obviously, this level doesn't have any moving obstacles in it, except for, well, there are enemies, and you have to, swing the sword at the right time or dash through them or whatever you choose to do. It's a very difficult thing that these runners are doing. So do not underestimate their skill. They are fantastic.
Yeah, and speaking of fantastic, I think Pidgeot just dropped his time. Oh no, he was 0.01 seconds slower that time. I thought we saw a new fastest time there, but it was just outside, which is a real shame. He must be livid with himself. That is the sort of thing that annoys me more than when I look at a leaderboard and I see someone's beaten me by 0.1 seconds or something. That's fine. I get over that. That's just competition. But when I have lost out on my PB by such a small amount, oh, that one really hits me.
Indeed. And I'm just noticing the difference in movement there. Unsm1le in that kind of central chamber. Throwing the knife diagonally upward to get through there. And Pidgeot, meanwhile, was... he did throw it diagonally there, but at some point he was experimenting with just throwing it straight ahead. But that tiny little platform doesn't have a lot of width to it, so it's quite difficult to get it at the correct height. But looks like Pidgeot's gone back to throwing it diagonally upwards again. And here I thought I found the new thing that they're gonna do to get the time lower.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about new things. I wonder if Unsm1le's wondering whether he should go back to the bottom route. I know that he put up an insanely fast time on this top route, but he put a lot of time into optimizing it. Maybe he could have optimized the bottom route further. What's going on in his head at the moment? How much faster could he have done that bottom route? Like I said, there was a few optimizations I picked up on, but I don't think you could have got 7.5 seconds sort of time on it. But when you're in the game, when you're playing it yourself, when you're not sat here like I am relaxed, just watching these two skilled players go through it, it's a completely different experience. It's a completely different sort of mindset that you're in. Maybe he doesn't even remember going the bottom route at this point. It's been a long 10 minutes since he was there.
Indeed, that was one of the things that kind of surprised me, and I think it was still part of Unsm1le's testing phase, where he didn't actually bother optimizing that bottom route, because like you said, we still saw, I think the last run we saw, with that quick time that was teasing Pidgeot the entire time in the beginning of this match, he still had some hesitations. He was still like thinking, working out what he needed to do next, kind of like which way do I throw the dagger, how far do I need to be, all that kind of stuff. And he never actually totally optimized that route. So it will be interesting to see if he wants to give that another go, because I wonder if he might feel that he's gotten all he can from this middle route.
Well, I figure that's why he started going for it, is that he thought, I've got everything I'm going to get. It makes me wonder if Pidgeot had been ahead at the time. Oh, that was a nice little up-down.
Wow,
there.
That was cool.
It looked cool. It was slow, but it looked cool. But if Pidgeot was ahead of him at the time, would he still have changed his route? Was it maybe some unnecessarily extra confidence that he had? That was terribly worded, but you know what I mean. Where his overconfidence led him to look for a different route. If he was behind, would he have just further optimized that bottom route, looking for those seconds that he could have made up?
Yeah, because he might have thought he was on the correct thing, or, and I say the correct thing, but we don't know the correct way. We don't know all the optimizations of all the routes. In the bottom route, they still might find something that makes them faster. I don't know if it's very likely, considering the gap in the time right now. From, what was it, 7 seconds to, 7.5 to 10 seconds.
It's a big jump.
So maybe they're...
I think, and I'm going to have to check with the stats team on this one, I think Pidgeot just put a 5.77 on the board. I looked away for a second, and I'm hoping that it was a...
5.77?
I'm hoping it was a 15.77, and I looked at it wrong. But if that was that time, that would have been game over. But I've been told by the stats team, no, it was 15.77, and I just can't read.
No, Avalon. It's the top route, which nobody has taken yet.
Well, that is one interesting point, you know. As you see here, as Unsm1le starts, there is some spikes and a wall to the top there. We've seen on a different track that you can go up those spikes, you can find a way up there. There might be some insanely fast route sitting up there waiting to be discovered that these guys just haven't explored in their 30-minute time.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea because it kind of looks like if you go top, there might be a little bit more verticality that you have to overcome, and that will take more time. So that might make the middle route always more quick, at least in this level. Because
that's why. That's why I thought the bottom route was going to be the faster choice, because the goal is so low down in this level that surely you wouldn't want to gain height to have to lose it again. That's why I'm so surprised that Pidgeot's got such a small time on his score at the moment. I figured that the fastest way through would have been drop down, stay down.
Indeed. Pidgeot doing some interesting things there. Practicing, trying to find new stuff. Yeah, but as you said, neither of them going over the top. And I wonder if Pidgeot had spent a little bit more time on the bottom, if we could have found a little bit more optimization there. But I guess the route is just a little bit too circuitous to kind of make that top time, because the middle route is almost completely straightforward, except for kind of the end where you have to go down a little bit more diagonally.
Yeah, it's maximizing that downtime. You see it with how they throw their knives and where everything's laid out. You can see it's such a tight little throw there. Pidgeot just catching the side of that platform, which warped him back up to it, which is obviously a huge time loss when we're talking about less than a second difference between these two. So, you know, those sort of differences really add up. It's getting that perfect throw, but you have to get every single throw perfect throughout the whole level.
And they've been working now for almost 25 minutes on this. They have 5 minutes left to finish their perfections. I wonder if they're going to bother to try very many new things, or if they're just going to work on the inputs. I guess it's up to each individual runner, how they function, how they like to do things.
Yeah, and I was going to, you know, talk about their time comparison as what they should or shouldn't be thinking, maybe, but earlier on, when Pidgeot was going the top route with a time of like 11 seconds or something, when Unsm1le first broke that sub 10, he was still going the bottom route. So maybe watching your opponent's time to determine your route was not the best option, because with a second difference there, at one point Pidgeot got it down to like 8 seconds or something. It's still only a second difference between the two routes. So maybe you wouldn't look for that second route then, but here they've both found the same route and they're both optimizing it, but maybe there's another second somewhere in that bottom route that you can just slowly eke away at the time.
Right, and like we were talking about earlier, that we haven't seen the fully optimized bottom route at all. There were hesitations, there were just weird throws, maybe, you know, not everything was exactly perfect. So it would be interesting to see what our community comes up with on this particular level 2, 3, in the future, and you know, if they're going to compare to our runners today, watching the videos back or wherever they see these times, and see if an optimized bottom route can produce a better time than our runners today.
Yeah, Unsm1le's going to be annoyed at that route. He had some perfect wall jumps from his knife throws there as he ascended, but then he just missed it on the range for that final throw, which is a real shame, as he accidentally goes down the bottom route visiting his old friend, but probably not going to explore it further. I think he knows that the time is in that middle route, as Pidgeot has now dropped it below 7 seconds. We were talking sub 8, but we're now on the 6.97 fastest time. I really hope Unsm1le doesn't have to look at that, because that is going to be demoralizing. See nearly a second difference between the two of them.
Oh, that's gonna hurt. And Unsm1le choosing to go bottom this time, wondering where to get those seconds, trying a different thing this time.
Seems a bit late in the day to be trying something new to me.
Indeed. But I think Unsm1le just went through that middle route so many times and could not find the time savings that Pidgeot was achieving. And so maybe it's like, okay, this is the way to go, because this is all I have left. And
yeah,
Unsm1le,
that desperation kicking in.
Yeah, trying desperately to get around this, but you know, with 2 minutes remaining, just over 2 minutes, It's going to be really rough. You can see Unsm1le hesitating at many of the areas and just, this is the time to be optimizing, not necessarily trying a completely different route where the movements on this route look so awkward. You can tell that Unsm1le is not used to it, forgot it from earlier, and it's looking really rough.
Yeah, he's not even approaching the times that he had earlier on this bottom route. And you can see each time he throws his knife, there's that frame where his character comes to a complete standstill. Although that was a very fast time, less than 10 seconds there. But there's still those frames where his character comes to a complete standstill. You lose all of that momentum, all of the speed that you've built up playing through that level. And you can't afford to do that when we're talking such close times. I mean, now there's a second behind them, but previously there wasn't. Maybe if Unsm1le had got ahead a little bit earlier on, maybe it would have got into Pidgeot's head, because that's the other side of these races that you don't see. You're not just playing against the game, you're playing against another person, and you've got to manage your own sort of expectations and your own, I guess, attitude towards the game. You've got to remain motivated and resilient as you go through it. If you're behind and that gets in your head, you're just going to fall further and further behind.
Yeah, indeed, and it was definitely an act of desperation to try that bottom route. Unsm1le, again, thinking that is not fast enough, and so it looks like they're going to go middle route now again to try and make up the time. But wow, there's very few seconds, and when you change the route, it may seem like a great idea. Oh yeah, let's try this new thing, but there's a huge amount of muscle memory, and when you're changing from route to route, you lose all of that, and he's lost that twice now. So I don't have great expectations of Unsm1le getting a faster time. I'm sorry, but it looks kind of rough, and I feel really bad for Unsm1le because I'm wondering if they strategically played this differently, if they might have found that faster route through the middle.
Yeah, and that's exactly what these guys are going to have to look at and reflect on ready for the next tournament. Because I tell you one thing about this game, once it's live, once it's public on Thursday and everyone's got their hands on it, there are going to be more races. There are going to be so many races of this game where people try and perfect it. But that is the end of our time, and although Unsm1le did get a sub-8 time, which is insanely fast, it's not fast enough with Pidgeot getting a sub-7 with 6 seconds, 0.97. Crazy fast.
What a match. That was really exciting, and really interesting to see the strategy there. I also enjoyed that two routes were quite similar. Well, I don't know if it's quite similar in time. Obviously, 2 seconds is a long time. But again, we did not see the very optimized version of the bottom route. But it was quite an exciting kind of comparison with both runners running different routes from the beginning of the match, and interesting to just see what they were working out, where their heads were, and finally come up with the fastest time through that middle route, and Pidgeot winning that particular match.
Yeah, Pidgeot advancing into the top 16, but Unsm1le, a really great player, as we saw in the first game that he had against Gil Normand. It was insanely fast in that game as well. So clearly Pidgeot is one to watch if he can knock Unsm1le off. So we are going to take a very brief break here whilst we set up for our next game. It's another top 64 game between Alternerd and Famura. I'm going to mess up so many names. There's so many new runners in this tournament, and I'm so excited to see our community grow and pull in all of these new people. So honestly, as a community, thank you so much for coming together and just keeping this stuff going. I love speedrunning so much, and we just couldn't do what we do without you guys. And I'm very sorry, Famura, for getting your name wrong. But we look forward to seeing you play against Alternerd in just a few minutes.